Hello students, this is our second lecture of unit 1, and in this lecture we are going to discuss about the types of vibration, vector representation of SHM and equivalent stiffness of the spring. Myself Professor Kunal Uday Shinde, I have a teaching experience of 10 years and my domain expertise is mechanical engineering and specialization in design. So the first topic which we are going to discuss today is the types of vibration. So some of the important types of vibration that we are going to discuss today are as follows. So first one is the free and force vibration. So after disturbing the system, the external excitation is removed. Then the system vibrates on its own. This type of vibration is known as free vibration. As we have discussed in our first unit that when we are going to give the external excitation to the spring mass system, it starts to vibrate because of the external excitation. But in case of free vibration, we are going to remove the external excitation and the body remains in the state of oscillation because of the internal elastic forces. Such type of vibration is called as your free vibration. So example we have already discussed in our first unit, and that was the simple pendulum. In simple pendulum, what happens when we give the external excitation to the simple pendulum, it gets displaced from its mean position and reaches the extreme position, and this phenomenon continues uh, up till the internal elastic forces come to the rest position. Then the vibration which is under the influence of external force is called as your force vibration. As we have discussed in free vibration that in free vibration we remove the external excitation, but the body still remains in the state of oscillation. But in case of free vibration, what happens when we remove the external excitation, the body comes to the rest position. So the vibration which is under the influence of external force means up till the period of application of the external force, the body remains in the state of oscillation. As soon as we are going to remove the external excitation, the body comes to the rest position, and the vibration related to this type is called as your forced vibration. Example, we can take it as the machine tools, electric bells. Then the second type of vibration is the linear and non-linear vibration. In a system, if spring, mass and damper behave in linear manner, the vibration caused are known as linear vibrations. Now in case of spring mass system, we have discussed that when we are going to apply the external excitation force, the body starts to vibrate. But if the body starts to vibrate in the longitudinal direction or in the direction of the application of the force, then that type of vibration is called as your linear vibration. And these linear vibrations are governed by linear differential equations, which we have already discussed in the last unit, that is mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx is equals to 0. They follow the law of superposition. On the other hand, if any of the basic components of vibratory system behaves non-linearly, the vibration is called as your non-linear vibration. Here we can take the example of a torsional vibration or a disc attached to the shaft at its free end. So whenever we are going to give the external excitation to this disc, it is going to make an angular displacement. This disc is not going to vibrate in a linear this is not going to vibrate in linear form, but it is going to vibrate in a angular form. So such type of vibrations are called as your non-linear vibrations. So linear vibrations become non-linear for heavy or large amplitude of vibration. It does not follow the law of superposition. Then the third type of vibrations are the damped and undamped vibration. So if the vibratory system has a damper, the motion of the system will be opposed by it, and the energy of the system will be dissipated in friction. This type of vibration is called as damp vibration. So whenever we are talking about the spring mass system, and in that spring mass system, if we are going to attach a damper, then this damper is going to oppose the motion of the spring mass system, and as it is going to oppose the motion, certain amount of heat energy will be developed over there because of the friction, and this type of vibration is called as your damped vibration. On the contrary, the system having no damper is known as undamped vibration. Here we can see the figure which shows you the different damping damped vibrations and undamped vibration. This blue color sinusoidal waveform, where your zeta, that is the damping factor, is 0, it means it is the undamped type of vibration. But as we are going to increase the value of this zeta, that is from 0.51 to 1.5, you can see how the amplitude of vibration is going to get reduced. Okay, so this type of vibration is called as your damped vibration. Means whenever we are going to give the damping, or whenever we are going to provide the damper to the spring mass system, the vibrations are going to get reduced, or they may get eliminated. Then the fourth type of vibration is your deterministic and random vibration. So if in the vibratory system the amount of external excitation is known in magnitude, it causes deterministic vibration. Means if we know the external exciting amount of external excitation force, then that type of vibration is called as your deterministic vibrations. Here we can see the figure of deterministic vibration. Here we know the amplitude of force, or the amplitude of external exciting force which is being applied over here. Means here we can determine the magnitude of the external exciting force by calculating the amplitude of vibration. So such type of vibrations are called as your deterministic vibration. Contrary to it, the non-deterministic vibration are known as random vibrations. Means where we cannot measure the amplitude of vibration, such type of vibrations are called as your random vibrations. Here we can see, here we cannot measure the amplitude of vibrations exactly. In this position we can see it is not possible to measure the amplitude at this particular point. So such type of vibrations can be defined as a random vibrations. Then the second is your longitudinal, transverse and torsional vibrations. So here in this figure we can see, if the there are three figures, this is the longitudinal vibration, transverse vibration and torsional vibrations. So figure represents a body of mass m carried on one end of the weightless spindle. Now here we can see this is the body of mass m which is attached to the spindle at the other end, at one end, and the other end is fixed over here. Now this type of spindle, or the mass, or this type of system can have the longitudinal as well as transverse or torsional vibration depending upon the type of force which we are going to apply on it. If we apply the force in this direction, if we apply the force in this direction, then the body will or the system will have the longitudinal vibration. Means it will vibrate along the direction of the application of the force. But if we are going to apply the force in this direction, means if we are going to apply the force in a perpendicular direction to the axis of the spindle, then the body will vibrate in a transverse direction. Transverse direction means it is going to vibrate perpendicular to the axis of the spindle or the shaft as shown over here. Now this is the body, and if we are going to apply the force in this direction, it is going to vibrate in this manner. It is going to vibrate perpendicular to the axis of the spindle. Now in the third case, if we are going to give the motion uh, angular displacement or angular force, if we are going to apply over here, then the body will get displaced in an angular form, or it will have the angular displacement. Now here you can see this is the point B, this is the mean position of the point B, but when we are going to apply the force to this system in this direction, then this point B reaches to the new point, that is C, and again it comes back to the point B, and from point B it moves for in the direction A, means it reaches the new direction over here. This continues up till the internal elastic forces come to the rest position, if we are talking about the free vibrations. So when the particles of the body or shaft move approximately perpendicular to the axis of the shaft, as shown in figure B, the vibrations so caused are known as transverse vibration. And for torsional vibration, if the spindle gets alternately twisted and untwisted on account of vibratory motion of the suspended disc, it is called to be undergoing torsional vibration, as shown in figure C over here. Then the sixth type of vibration is the transient vibration. In ideal system, the free vibration continue indefinitely as there is no damping. We have discussed already that whenever we are applying the external force and removing that external force, the body remains in the state of oscillation because of the internal elastic forces. And as we are not providing any kind of damping to such kind of system, these vibrations or the body remains in the state of oscillation up till the internal elastic forces come to the rest position. So the amplitude of vibration decays continuously because of damping in real system and vanishes ultimately. Such vibration in real system is called transient vibrations. System with finite number of degree of freedom are called discrete or lump system. Means if we know the degree of freedom of that particular system, then such type of system are called as a discrete or lump system. Now here you can see this is the transient vibration whose amplitude continuously decreasing, as you can see over here. The amplitude continues to get reduced because of the damping provided. But in case of your free vibration where no damping is provided, you can see the body is giving you the same amplitude. And if we are talking about the complete solution in real system, then the graph which we are going to obtain is shown over here, that is the total vibration, which is the combination of your transient and steady state vibrations. Then the next topic which we are going to discuss is the vector representation of SHM. So we have already discussed what is SHM, that is the simple harmonic motion. We know that the motion which repeats itself after an equal interval of time is known as periodic motion. If we consider a motion of type x1 is equals to a1 sine omega t, where we know that this x1 represents the displacement of the body after the application of the force, and a1 represents the amplitude of vibration at that particular point. Omega is the natural frequency of the motion, will be repeated after 2 pi by omega time. The harmonic motion is one of the periodic motion over here. Now here we are going to discuss the vector representation of the SHM. So in the equation, that is x1 is equals to a sine omega t, we know that x1 is the displacement and a1 is the amplitude of vibration. Then here we are going to add the harmonic motion. We are going to discuss about the addition of harmonic motion. So when we add two harmonic motion the same frequency means if they are having the same frequency, that is omega, we get the resultant motion as harmonic. Means if we are adding the two harmonic motions, the resultant also we are going to get will be the harmonic motion. Now let us have two harmonic motions of amplitude A1 and A2. Now here you can see this is the harmonic, this is the amplitude of first harmonic motion, and this A2 represents the amplitude of the second harmonic motion. The same frequency omega and the phase difference phi. Now here we can see there is a phase difference of phi between the two amplitudes. Now A1 is at angle omega t, which we have already given over here, but A2 will be at a angle of omega t plus phi. So there will be a difference of phi. This difference is called as your phase difference. See, x1 is equals to A1 sine omega t, x2 will be equals to A2 sine omega t plus phi. We will give this as equation 1 and equation 2. As I have already shown over here, the amplitude A1 is at an angle omega, but amplitude A2 is at an angle omega t plus this phi. Okay, that we have mentioned over here. So the resultant motion is given by adding the above two equations. Now when we are going to add these two equations, we will get the resultant, that is A, which will be also be the harmonic motion. See, this is the resultant solution, that is x equals to x1 plus x2, which is equals to A1 sine omega t plus A2 sine omega t plus phi. Now we can write down this sine omega t plus phi as we can write this equation as A1 sine omega t plus A2 into sine omega t cos phi plus sine phi cos omega t. This we have obtained from this relation, that is sine omega t plus phi, which can also be from here we can take sine omega t as common. So when we are going to take sine omega t as common, so the equation will become x is equals to sine omega t into bracket this A1 plus A2 into cos phi plus A2 cos omega t sine phi. Will give this as equation number 3. So if we assume that A1 plus A2 is equals to A1 plus A2 cos phi is equals to A cos theta. If we assume this, then the and A2 sin phi as A sin theta, giving it as equation number 4. Now the equation 3 can be written as, means after putting this value over here, we will get the equation as x is equals to A1 sin omega t cos theta plus A2 sin omega t sin theta cos omega t. So this can also be written as A omega t plus phi. We will give this as equation 5. So the above equation shows that the resultant displacement is also a simple harmonic motion of amplitude A and phase theta. Over here we are having theta and over here also we are having the amplitude as A. So to find out the value of A, we are going to square and add equation 4. Squaring and adding equation 4 we get, so here we are going to square and add. So we will get A square is equals to A1 plus A2 cos phi bracket square plus A2 square sin square phi. So this we after expanding this we will get A1 square plus A2 square cos square phi plus twice A1 A2 cos phi plus A2 sin square phi. So this will become A1 square plus A2 square plus twice A1 A2 cos phi, because we know that cos square phi plus sin square phi will be equals to 1. Over here we can see this A2 sin square phi and A2 cos square phi, it will become 1. So the result the equation will become A1 square plus A2 square plus twice A1 A2 cos phi. So A will be equals to a1 square plus a2 square plus twice a1 a2 cos phi bracket raised to half. We'll give it as equation number 6. The resultant phase difference can be determined from equation 4 as phase difference means we have to calculate the phi. So tan theta will be equals to a2 sin phi upon a1 plus a2 cos phi. We are talking about the this diagram. From this diagram we are going to take the we will use this triangle, and we are going to find out this resultant phase difference of the resultant amplitude. So it will be equals to tan theta is equals to a2 sin phi upon a1 plus a2 cos phi. So theta will be equals to tan inverse into bracket a2 sin phi upon a1 plus a2 cos phi. We'll give it this as equation number 7. Then the next part which we are going to discuss is the equivalent spring stiffness. So many applications have more than one spring in the system. For analysis, it is necessary to find equivalent spring stiffness. The combination can either be springs in series, springs in parallel. Means in practical application, we are going to use more than one springs. The springs may be either in series or they may be in the they may be parallel. So depending upon the combination, we are going to calculate the equivalent spring stiffness, and that according to that we are going to find out the solution to the given equation. So first we are going to discuss about the springs in series. So consider three springs connected in series as shown in figure. Now here we can see these are the three springs. These springs are connected in a series, that is having the stiffnesses K1, K2 and K3, and the force is applied in this direction. Let F force acting on the system. X1, X2, X3 deflection of the spring 1, 2 and 3 in mm. So as we are going to apply the force to this spring combination, there will be a deflection of the three springs. The first spring will get deflected by an displacement x1, second one will get displaced by x2, and third will get displaced by x3, which is shown over here. K1, K2, K3, these are stiffnesses of spring 1, 2 and 3 in Newton per mm. This K1, K2, K3. K equivalent spring stiffness in Newton per mm. Over here we can see we have converted these three springs into a equivalent spring, and after converting this into equivalent spring, we have to calculate this equivalent spring stiffness. So the total deflection of the system is equal to the sum of deflection of individual spring stiffness. So in order to calculate this equivalent spring stiffness, we have to consider the deflection of the individual spring stiffnesses. So x is equals to x1 plus x2 plus x3 and so on, depending upon the number of springs which we are going to use over here. So as the springs are in series, we know the formula for stiffness, that is stiffness is equal to the application of the force per deflection, that is F upon delta, or we can say that F upon x. So if we are talking about the displacement, then displacement will become force upon the stiffness. So putting the value of x, x1, x2 and x3, we will get the equation as force upon k is equals to force upon k1 plus force upon k2 plus force upon k3 and so on, because as I have discussed, that is stiffness is equals to force upon displacement. So as we know that the force which we are applying on all the springs is same, so the above term, that is the numerator, will become 1, and the equation will become 1 upon k is equals to 1 upon k1 plus 1 upon k2 plus 1 upon k3 and so on. So we will give this as equation number 1. We'll talk about the springs in parallel. Now consider the three springs connected parallel as shown in figure. Now here we can see the springs are connected parallelly, and the force is applied on the three springs equally over here. Now again, let F force acting on the system, x1, x2, x3, deflection of the spring 1, 2 and 3 in mm. So whenever we are going to apply the force to the spring mass system, the springs are going to get displaced from the mean position, and they will try to reach the new position, that is the extreme position. X is the deflection of the total system, K1, K2, K3, stiffness of springs 1, 2 and 3 in Newton per mm. K equivalent spring stiffness. When we are going to convert this three springs into equivalent spring, then the stiffness related with that spring is called as your equivalent spring stiffness. So the total deflection of the individual spring is equal to the deflection of the system. Means if we are going to calculate the stiffness of a equivalent spring mass system, then it will be equal to the addition of all the deflection of all the individual spring or the complete system. So kx will be equals to k1 x1 plus k2 x2 plus k3 x3 and so on, using the same relation, that is k is equals to force upon x. So as the displacement of the three three springs will be same as they are attached at both the ends, so the displacement of the three springs will be same. So neglecting this term x, equation will become k is equals to k1 plus k2 plus k3 and so on. Thus equivalent spring stiffness is equal to the sum of individual spring stiffness. So in this lecture we have discussed about the types of vibration. Here we have studied the various types of vibration. Then we have discussed about the vector representation of simple harmonic motion, means how we can add the two vectors, and when we are going to add the two vectors, we are going to get the resultant motion, and that motion will also be in the form of simple harmonic. Then we have discussed about the equivalent springs. In that we have discussed about the springs in series and springs in parallel. Thank you for watching the video.